All right, what's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Growth by Sean podcast. I'm sitting here with David Waldy today. So I'm really excited about this one. David, how you doing?
What's up, my brother? It's good to see you, Sean.
Yeah,
Excited to be here, man.
yeah, it's good to see your face. So how we're going to start this today is if I had come up to you on the street and asked
hmm
you for a little life advice, what would you
Mm.
give me?
So the first thing that I would do is I'd actually ask a follow-up question,
Mm-hmm.
um, because that's a very ambiguous question. And
Mm-hmm.
so if somebody said life advice, the first thing I'd ask them to say, in what particular context? Like, give me some more context. You looking for, marriage? You looking for purpose? You looking for meaning? Are you looking for health? Are you looking for spirituality, connection to God, identity? And so that's what I would ask them. So I'll just ask you, Sean, is there any specific
Yeah,
context?
I feel like I have a lack of purpose.
Okay, cool. So if someone said lack of purpose, my next question that I would ask them is like, how do you currently define purpose? What is your definition of purpose?
Mm. Um, the reason why I am here right now.
Okay, beautiful. So pretty simple answer that most people would give, right?
Mhm.
Say it one more time, just so I can let it soak in.
The reason that I'm here right now.
Okay, so your definition of purpose is the reason that you are here right now.
Mhm.
So let me ask you another question. What's the purpose of driving a car, Sean?
To get from A to B
Okay, what's the purpose of eating food?
so that I'm not hungry,
Okay, what's the purpose of taking a bath or a shower?
so that I'm not stinky.
Okay. So, in most contexts, almost every other context, you will find the word purpose used. It is a specific result from a action, right? So, if you're looking to create a specific result, like I want to be clean,
Mhm.
so the purpose of taking a shower is to get clean, right? The
Mhm.
purpose of eating the food is so you're not hungry. The purpose of driving the car is to get where you want to go. And
Mm.
so purpose is nothing more than an outcome to be achieved, a result that you achieve based on a specific set of actions to
Mhm.
create said result. And the reason that so many people struggle with purpose in life is because they haven't defined the result that they want. They've never given
Mhm.
themselves permission to define for themselves what they actually want in life,
Mm.
why they want it, and who they need to become to get it. So if you want to create more purpose in your life, in the same way that when you go to drive a car, the best advice that I can give you is that you would not be driving a car if you did not know where you wanted to go, unless you're
Mhm.
just joyriding, right? Granted,
Mhm.
we all, but in most situations, if you're like, hey, I want to go to, say you're going out to eat at a specific restaurant, plug that in your GPS, or how to get there because you've done it before, right?
Mhm.
And so all along the way, everything that you are doing in driving that car is purposeful.
Mhm.
Everything you're doing is
Mm.
purposeful to help you get to the outcome that you desire, the result that you want. And so when you get crystal clear on what you want in life,
Mhm.
what you need to do gets crystal clear.
Mhm.
Well, if I want to go to Red Lobster, what do I need to do? I need to get in the car, turn the car on, put it in gear, back out of my driveway, and drive to where it needs to go. So you now have a system, you have a process, right?
Mhm.
You have a step-by-step process that most people do subconsciously. We don't really think about going and getting in the car. We just go get in the car and put it in gear and drive. And so when you start to recognize this, you start to realize that most people have completely overcomplicated this term called purpose because they're running towards something, trying to find something that they never find because they don't realize that they're asking the wrong questions. It's not that they're not asking useful questions, but if you start asking questions like, well, what does purpose mean to me? And tell me your answer again, Sean. What does purpose
Mhm.
mean to you?
To what did I say? That I have a meaning.
Okay, meaning. Okay.
Mhm.
So nothing in life has meaning except for what we come up with in our heads, right?
Mhm.
So I could say something to you that to one person would be highly triggering and highly offensive. But
Mhm.
if you don't have any meaning attached to that, you might just look at me like I'm an idiot.
Mhm.
You might just be like, okay, that doesn't offend me. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't trigger me because I completely disagree with you, or you're a moron, right?
Mhm.
And so there's a reason to that, that every person ascribes meaning to different things. And so what I would encourage anyone, if somebody came up to me on the side of the street and said, hey, how do I have more purpose in my life? The very first thing I say is that you need to know what you're aiming at.
Mm.
Because if you don't know what you're aiming at, you're never going to feel purpose. Because once you do know what you're aiming at, every single thing you do now has purpose and is purposeful, because there is meaning in every action you are taking and every decision you're making, every belief that you're attaching to. And by extension, you, with purposeful intentionality every single day, align your life with that ideal, with that vision, with the outcome and the results that you want. You'll start to wake up every single day realizing that your life is filled with purpose,
Mm.
and you'll no longer be searching for it.
Why is it so difficult for us to change our beliefs? Is it
Mm.
because we've already had them for so long? Or is it about deciding that we're going to change them or be persuaded to change them, or truly deep down that we feel that this is the right thing to do?
Mm.
How do you navigate that?
It's a really good question. So the way that I look at beliefs, there's a great quote, and I forget who said it, but it says, "A man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still." And so, especially in the day and age that we live in, Sean, when we start talking about beliefs and shifting beliefs and how we challenge beliefs and question beliefs, that if I say something that you don't believe, right?
Mhm.
You just don't believe it. It's not really
Mhm.
a conscious thing. It's just like, no, I just don't believe that, right?
Yeah.
Where people really, excuse me, where people really start to wrestle with beliefs is when they start recognizing that the a lot of what we carry is simple programming, right? We
Mhm.
were programmed and conditioned, every single one of us, because of our upbringing, because of our parents or lack thereof, because of abuse or lack thereof, because of trauma and pain and stress and difficulty and challenges in life. We've all lived some life, and to varying degrees, we have all experienced pain, suffering, loss, betrayal, hurt. Like, we've all experienced those to some degree.
Mhm.
And so, what starts to happen as you mature, as you grow, as you age, and this is especially true, I would say, in your mid 20s to late 20s, you really start to come to terms with, whoa, okay, this is life. Like, I'm in the game.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
I'm a grown up now, but I don't feel like one. And
Mhm.
so, I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but I know for me in my mid to late 20s, I was like, I still feel like I don't feel like I'm a man. I feel like I'm a kid.
Mhm.
I'm supposed to have this off. And everybody, recently in the last few years, everybody talks about adulting, right?
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
learning how to adult. And what I started to discover, Sean, was that the programming that we carry, it is not all intrinsically good and it is not all intrinsically bad. The reason that people struggle is because they never actually go into their belief system and question their beliefs.
Mhm.
And so your beliefs about what marriage is supposed to look like, your beliefs about money, your beliefs about God, your beliefs about health, your beliefs about parenting, your beliefs about the education system, your beliefs about politics, your beliefs about every single aspect of your life, most people have never intentionally sat down and written out what they believe about money and how they
Mhm.
feel about money and everything that comes along with that. And so the most effective way that I have found to search out our beliefs is using a framework. Okay. So your beliefs, and this is true for every one of us, your beliefs and your thoughts are kind of in this kind of gray area. They overlap a lot, but the tendency is your beliefs lead to your thoughts, your
Mhm.
thinking
Mhm.
patterns, the things that you regularly think about. And 80 to 90% of what we think about as human beings is the exact same every single day. It's why we're habitual creatures. We're routine. We do the same thing over and over and over and over and over again until it becomes a pattern that is programmed into our mind, where we just do it by default. We don't even think about it. Kind of like when we go get in the car, you don't really think about driving the car after you've driven a car for several years. You just get in
Mhm.
and do it. And then that leads to our feelings. So beliefs lead to our thoughts lead to our feelings, and our feelings are what lead to our actions. But then what's really interesting is that it's a circle. Your actions then inform your beliefs inform your thoughts inform your feelings inform your actions, right? And so
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
only way that you can disrupt this pattern, there's only two ways that this happens. And then you can look at the research and understand more about neuroscience and how this works, but it requires what we call a pattern disrupt. Okay.
Mhm.
You have to disrupt your pattern, which happens one of two ways. And I like to, this is how I kind of describe them. There is voluntary pain or involuntary pain. Okay. So involuntary pain is pain that you did not anticipate. You weren't expecting it. You had no idea. You get a call from the doctor. You find out you lose your job. Your girlfriend, your boyfriend leaves you. You lose a loved one, right? You get an insane tax bill in the mail, right? Or you get that eviction notice on the door. These are those things that you hear people talk about as their wake up calls, right?
Mhm.
Those are those moments in life where reality just slaps you upside the face and it is painful. And what that does, most often you hear this on the back end of people's success or stories or things that like they went through, is like, I was a normal kid and then I went through this traumatic thing and then I was like confronted with reality and then I like became successful, right? That's like every successful story that for anyone. And
Mhm.
the problem is that that's not the only way. So you can have involuntary pain, you can experience that, and we all do from time to time. Those are the things in life that force us to reevaluate and change our perspective. Ultimately, to your question of like, how do we wrestle with these beliefs? The only way that you can wrestle and question with your beliefs is by changing your perspective.
Mhm.
How do we change our perspective? The only way to change our perspective is through what I call fierce empathy. Is that
Mhm.
you have to be fiercely committed to what you see and what you hear and what you believe and what you hold. But you also need to be flexible enough to know that you could be wrong.
Mhm.
And so you own what you believe with passion, right? But you're flexible enough to create an environment where other people are seen, heard, and understood. Because the only way that we can take on a new perspective is when we actually try and step into the shoes and understand another person's way of seeing life. And so, what does this have to do with the involuntary pain? You get a dose of reality. Your perspective on life changes when you lose a job. Your perspective on life changes when a family member dies. Your perspective on life changes. Like for me, my involuntary wake up call was when I found myself standing in front of the mirror, about 60 pounds heavier than I am right now, with a Glock in my hand, ready to end my life.
Mhm.
That was an unplanned, involuntary wake up call where I had an encounter with what I believe to be God. And I feel like he's divinely interrupted that plan. And that was involuntary pain. But voluntary pain, we do every single day if you're committed to development and growth. Sean, I know you do a lot of stuff in the health and wellness space and you help people
Mhm.
stretch out and do all sorts of things. You probably, I'm sure your listeners know this too. So what happens, Sean, when you go to the gym and you pick up a weight and you put your muscles under stress? What is happening to those muscles?
It hurts. They tear.
They tear. You are subjecting your body to a controlled suffering environment. Voluntary, meaning voluntary. I'm volunteering this. I'm doing this of my own will, my own volition, my own choice. I am subjecting myself to the tearing that is necessary in order for things to be rebuilt stronger and stronger and stronger. And you know this better than anyone. If you try and do that once a week or once a month, and sometimes this is what happens to people in therapy, and I'm all for therapy. I think therapy is powerful, but there's some danger there, is that if you think that you can just focus on the work once a week or once a month, just like going and you show up at the gym and you knock out a 2-hour workout, you are not going to experience the results. The only thing that's going to happen is you're going to feel really freaking sore. And then you're going to be pissed off because you didn't get any results. Because you're like, well, I went to the gym and I worked out for 2 hours. I went to the therapist and I sat down for an hour. I did this, I did this, I did this. The difference maker is consistency. Are you willing to continually and perpetually subject yourself to the discomfort, the tearing that happens of the muscles, of the beliefs, of the thinking patterns, of how you see life, of how you see the world? Are you willing to have people come alongside you to challenge what you believe? And are you really willing to sit with those things and wrestle with them and investigate your thoughts and investigate your beliefs? Because when you do that, you're subjecting yourself to what is that voluntary pain, which actually can lead to the exact same results as involuntary pain. So that's what I tell people. Or either life is going to like punch you in the face and it's going to happen, or you can gently start to like train yourself by allowing yourself to be punched in the face
Mm, mhm,
voluntarily,
mhm,
and you will develop resilience and character and understanding and perspective. And so I think that we live in a world that is really, really all about feelings and feeling good and pleasure and happiness. And people are missing the fact that the path to having those things sustainably, not just success, but success and deep fulfillment, joy, peace, the experience of a full
mhm,
life, that only comes through some form of suffering.
mm. There's so much good stuff there, and I think this is gonna end up being one of those podcasts where I ask you as many questions as I can because I want to learn as much as I can from you. So, this is how this is gonna turn into. Taking that, your story is very powerful. You are a very powerful person. When I say that, not in a political sense of sorts, just the energy that you bring to people that you're able to speak with, like myself.
Thank you, brother.
So, when we look at this pattern disruption and involuntary and voluntary pain,
Mhm.
do you why is it that it has to be pain as opposed to pleasure? Like instead of the eviction notice, a a form comes in the mail and you were gifted $1 million mansion.
Mhm.
Or instead of a loved one passing away, a newborn baby is born. Like things of that nature.
Mhm. So if I'm understanding your question correctly, you're saying,
Mhm.
is there a reason it has to be pain and it couldn't be pleasure? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes. Or could it be pleasure as opposed to pain in order to build something back up?
I think that so I think I understand your question. Pleasure is a beautiful part of life. It allows
Mm,
us to experience the full gamut of human emotion that if you are, here's how I would explain it. Nature is one of the best things to look at if you want to understand the mysteries of the universe. Like that's
mhm,
it. You go look at a blade of grass, right? And you hear people get pretty woo woo on some of this stuff, and rightfully so in certain regards. But the fact of the matter is, you look at anything in nature, and the strongest, most resilient, most powerful, most majestic, awe inspiring, captivating things that we experience in nature, they did not come through ease
mhm,
in any capacity.
mm,
You take animals, right? We live in this world. I love eagles. You know, eagles are a great example that there are certain types of birds, and I believe also certain types of eagles that literally they push their kids out of their nest, and if the kid does not learn to fly, it falls to its death.
mm,
And we as humans be like, "Oh my God, that's so terrible! What a horrible parent!" And I'm like, "But really? Like if you want something that is going to, like an eagle, right? Or you look at like smaller animals and what they have to struggle through, you look that life is it's not this binary good and bad, right? There are many things in life that are pretty binary that you can see, okay, this is good, this is bad, like this is evil, this is good. You know, there's
mhm,
certain things that you can see a clear line of delineation, but there are other things in life where we have grown into a culture that likes to put labels on everything. And
mhm,
so if someone is suffering, if someone is going through pain, is going through difficulty, our tendency is to say, "Oh my gosh, that's such a bad situation."
mhm,
Except if we're honest and we look back at our lives, that some of the most painful, frustrating, difficult, challenging forms of suffering that we've experienced produced immeasurable and immense good in our lives.
mhm,
It's not that we would want to have to relive that. We wouldn't want our worst enemies to have to experience some of the things that we've experienced. But what came out of that, our awareness, our perception, our perspective on reality has changed. And I heard another quote once is that a lot of times humans, and I don't know if this is the actual quote, but this was the thought that I took from it, is that if you are standing where you're at and you're looking towards the thing that you want, right? Most people will not make the jump or make the change until the pain of their current reality is greater than the perceived pain of the change,
mm,
right?
mhm,
And so a lot of this is why you see a lot of times people, they just get stuck in a rut and they're just
mhm,
stuck and they stay there for year after year after year after year, and they might have marginal incremental increases in life. Maybe their health's a little bit better from time to time. Maybe their marriage gets a little bit better from time to time. Maybe their finances are a little bit better from time to time, but there's no consistency.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that pain in and of itself, if we stop framing it as good and bad, it changes the whole entire game. We stop thinking like, oh, like pain is intrinsically bad, suffering is intrinsically bad. It's not intrinsically bad, depending on how you look at it. And so if you take a different perspective and you start to realize like, oh my gosh, the only way that that oak tree becomes an oak out of that acorn, I'm sorry, the only way that acorn becomes an oak tree is it is going to have to fight and claw and push its way through dirt and dog crap and everything else to sprout up through the ground. And just when it finally breaks through, like the real work begins. Now it's going to have to go through tornadoes and hurricanes and rainstorms and people trying to, like deer coming to munch on its leaves and all sorts of stuff. Is that it is very much about this resiliency. And I think that there's a lot of people that are, they're searching for pleasure and they're constantly searching for feelings. And then they wonder why there's this giant hole in their heart, back to your original question, around purpose. Because you cannot feel and find purpose and meaning. I believe this with everything in me. You cannot find and feel or experience purpose in your life unless you are going after big, hairy, audacious goals and things that kind of scare the crap out of you. You have to go after the things in your life that don't really make sense, that push the bounds on what you think is possible, because it's only in that place where we're able to test ourselves. If you only ever do what you know you're good at, if you only ever stay in your comfort zone, you will not be fulfilled because of the potential that's on your life. And I believe there's even a spiritual application to that, Sean, is that I believe that every single person on this planet has been placed here with a gift from God, God-given gifts to be shared with humanity. Some people might disagree with me on that. That's cool. I still love you. We can disagree on certain things. But I believe that if that's the case, if every person has a gift to share, the only way that that happens is if they are willing to push the bounds on their potential, which means that you have to get really, really comfortable being uncomfortable all the time. And a lot of people don't like, they're like, I don't want that. I don't want to feel uncomfortable. I just want to be happy, and I just want to have a joyful life, and I just want to do this, and I just want to, and I'm not here to tell anyone how to live their life. You get to define what success means to you. But what I always tell people is this, Sean, is that you just need to be honest with yourself. Can you truly say that you are living a life that feels fulfilled, that feels like you have purpose, that has not just happiness, but joy, deep joy, not just moments of reprieve, but persistent peace, right? Do you have the feelings of of lust, or of that fanciful, lovey-dovey feeling, right? The butterflies, or do you have true, deep rooted trust and love in someone that you would give your life for? Those things are very, very different, and they're words that we throw around. And so whenever we start talking about, I start talking about these things with any individual, it's not for me to judge. It's for each of us to judge for ourselves. And if you're dissatisfied, then you owe it to yourself to subject yourself to involuntary pain. And that doesn't mean that you just have to be suffering all the time, because you start to fall in love with the process. I love going to the gym now. Is it always comfortable? No. Am I pushing myself? Absolutely. But it's something that now is programmed into me. It's part of what I do now because of who I am. And so on one hand, yes, I am stretching and suffering and subjecting myself to the discomfort. Maybe that's a better word than pain, the discomfort. But it's because I want the results, and I feel better, and I look better, and I'm more confident. My wife finds me more attractive. I can roll around on the floor with my kids longer. I can play soccer outside longer. I can do so many things because of one simple change, like in my health. And so the same is true in every other area of our life, is, are we willing to put in the work required? And most people are not. And that's okay. If that's not what they want, but you just better be honest with yourself.
There's so much good stuff here listening to you. And there's so many different ways that I could take this, because I've already learned so much. But when we look at the thoughts into the feelings into our actions, does it first start with our thoughts?
Not
And
always.
then okay,
So
because
it's
yeah.
go ahead. No, what was your question? Go ahead. I'm
Yeah, I
sorry.
was gonna say, can it start with your actions in order to change your thoughts and behaviors?
Absolutely. So
I
that
didn't
if
know if one should start before the other.
it's a cycle. So if we could put a visual representation for everyone watching right now, just imagine a circle, and on the outside of the circle, there's four words, right? There's belief in the top left quadrant. Then in the top right quadrant is thoughts. In the bottom right quadrant is your feelings. And the bottom left quadrant are your actions. And just imagine this being a line that draws a circle like a clock.
Mhm,
They all feed into each other. You can't really separate them. The only reason that we separate them as a construct is to be able to look at the constituent parts and say, okay, all of this I'm experiencing at any given moment. I'm believing something, I'm attaching to something, I had a thought which led to a feeling, and I'm doing something right now. All those things can happen in milliseconds, right?
mhm,
Much of what's happening we're not even conscious of, we're not
mhm,
aware of. That's where our habits take over, and that's why literally rewiring your brain and learning how to change your neurochemistry, how to change your brain from the inside out, which science has finally proven, what
mhm,
all the spiritual folks have always known.
mhm,
You can change yourself, you can change your life, you can change your mind. And what happens when you get from beliefs to thoughts to feelings to actions is that actions, as you see, leads right back into beliefs. And so a lot of time we have to be willing to do the action regardless of what we believe, regardless of what we're thinking, and regardless of what we're feeling,
mm,
in order to basically shake ourselves out of whatever. That's where a pattern disrupt comes in. And so this means, and again, we're talking about the voluntary pain.
mhm,
The reason that it's painful more than anything is because we don't feel like it. It's not necessarily like this excruciating suffering pain. It is more of like, this just feels really freaking uncomfortable because I don't feel like doing this. I don't feel like getting out of bed right when my alarm goes off. I feel like snoozing. I don't
mhm,
feel like going to the gym. I don't feel like having that uncomfortable conversation with my boss or my coworkers or my spouse or my kids. And so we end up living based on these feelings, which again, as we know, are directly tied to our thoughts and our beliefs. And so if we want to change the way we feel, I had a mentor of mine tell me once, he said, right actions always lead to right feelings.
mm. Okay.
The key is that right actions lead to right feelings. Right actions don't immediately give you good feelings,
Mhm,
but they lead to the feelings. And I'm sure people who listen to your podcast, and I'm sure you heard it before too, Sean, is that when you choose hard, life is easier.
mhm,
When you choose easier, life is hard.
mhm,
And it is 100% true. That's why people say all the time, choose your hard. That's what they're talking about. That's what they mean, is that if we're willing to take the radical, uncomfortable question or the actions, and we're starting to do the things that are in alignment with who we said that we would be. Because that's
mhm,
what all the work that I do centers around, that is identity work and what you want, why you want it, who you are.
mhm,
And what I have found over the years is that if you look at yourself in the future and say, this is the man that I want to be, whether
mhm,
it's an entrepreneur, a father, husband, mother, leader, whoever, right? When you get crystal clear on who you want to become, what you need to do gets crystal clear. Because most people are asking the wrong questions. This goes back to our earlier conversation. What do I need to do to fix my health? What do I need to do to fix my marriage? What do I need to do to make more money? What do I need to do to buy that car? What do I need to do? And they're useful questions. They're just not the best first question. The best first question is, who do you need to become? Who do you want to become? Because when you do that and you say, okay, if we take Sean and you for an example, if you see the
mhm,
man that you want to be in the future, now what has to happen is the actions that you're asking about, your actions today must align with that. So you have to think about, okay, the man that I want to be, how does he act? How does he walk? How does he talk? How does he dress? How does he interact? What does he do as far as his mental health, his emotional health, his physical health, his spiritual health? How is he operating in life? And once you have grabbed a hold of that, you start literally with your imagination, you start acting that way today
mhm,
in this moment. And your actions will help rewire your brain and your programming so that your beliefs and your thinking patterns start to shift. And you do that with consistency, those actions that are uncomfortable, that because you're
mhm,
going to feel out of your skin. You're going to be like, this isn't me. This feels like I'm pretending. This feels like I'm an imposter. And anytime someone tells me they feel like an imposter or they're pretending, I ask them this question. I say, what if the version of you that you've been operating in is actually the fake one?
Mm, wow.
And the one
I've
that
never
you
heard
think
it
you're
that way.
pretending, the one that you think that you're pretending to be, what if that's the real you? And the reason it feels so uncomfortable is because you haven't been the real you for so long. The only one you know is the one with all the trauma and the baggage and the masks and the pretending and the people pleasing and all this other stuff. Which one of you seems more real? And so that's how I like to help people reframe it is what if that is the real you? You just haven't operated in that capacity since you were a kid. So you don't even know yourself anymore.
Mhm.
You just know this hollow shell of an existence that's been created. And so when you can start to really think about these things and you start looking at who you want to become and you get clear on that, again, what you need to do gets crystal clear. And those actions, they literally change what you believe about yourself over time.
Mm,
The most recent research indicates if you want to rewire your brain, create new neural pathways, it takes between 21 and 90 days. There used to be a
mhm,
lot of argument around how long it actually takes. And so the consensus is it's somewhere between 21 and 90 days, different for every person, but only with adequate self-care and rest. If
mhm,
you're not getting the right amount of sleep and you're not taking care of your mental state, your emotional state, and your physical state, even your spiritual state, if you're not taking care of yourself, it can take you up to a year and a half to create a new habit and rewire your brain. And so you have all these people talking hustle and grind and
mhm,
all the stuff and change 5 a.m. club. I'm all for stuff that works. Everybody's got different ways and things that work. The question is,
mhm,
what works for you? Do you even know? Have you tested? Have you tried things? Have you put in the work required to learn enough about yourself and to start operating as the version of you that you want to be? Because when you start operating as the version of you that you want to be, everything that you think you want out here, money,
mhm,
sex, kids, fame, status, whatever, all that stuff starts, your perspective starts to change and you start to realize, wow, okay, the only reason I wanted those things was because I wanted a particular feeling. But if I can have that feeling without those things,
mm,
life becomes really freaking beautiful because most of us have access to everything that we want. We just don't realize it.
mm. There's I feel like I'm gonna say this 100 times. There's so much just good stuff here. Like,
I
I
hope it's
feel
useful.
yeah, it's 100% useful. Um, because there's some things that I knew, some things that I need more clarity on, and some things that I wasn't aware of. When I look at the man that I want to become,
Mhm.
and is that a process to become this person, or is this embodying this now in my internal? And then when I believe it and all of my actions are this man, is that man that I want to create?
You hit it spot on the head, brother.
Hell
Spot
yeah.
on. So this is where people get success and fulfillment confused because they're not the same thing at all. They're not even I mean they have a little bit of crossover, but success and fulfillment are not the same thing. Most people are pursuing success, but success is nothing more than actually accomplishing something that you set out to accomplish. Fulfillment is finding joy along the way, right?
Mm,
And creating joy along the way. Rather, is less about finding, it's more about creating it. And so when you talk about embodying, that is it. Most
mhm,
people, when they get an idea of who they want to become, they internalize all of the crap that's in their life. And they say, well, I don't look like that. I don't dress
mhm,
like that. I don't talk like that. I don't have that type of business. I don't have that type of career. I don't have that type of relationship with my spouse. I don't have whatever it is. Right. And so they start stacking all of the reasons they're disqualified from being that person.
mhm,
And so they internalize all these things, stacking on guilt and shame and beating themselves up and all of this useless crap that causes us to stay stuck. Because what we've effectively done is we've created a gap between who we are right now and who we want to become, and we feel less than.
mhm,
If someone does that, is usually a really good indication that they have an inferiority complex when it comes to people in general, right? So
mhm,
I did some really cool work back in the day with Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi, who was a former speaker and head trainer for them. And I got to be around some of the biggest names in the personal development industry, where I could name drop a bunch of people and be like, oh my gosh. And I'll tell you, they're human. They're
mhm,
100% human. And when I really got into that world and I stopped revering these people as gods and goddesses and as idols and realizing that they're no better than me. They
mhm,
know, like, they've discovered different answers than me. They
mhm,
have proficiencies in certain areas. They're really good at certain things, but I am not intrinsically inferior, nor am I intrinsically superior to anyone else. Most of these people, Sean, who have a hard time with trying to step into who they want to become, is because they're looking at life as some twisted hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
That there are levels as far as like, well, they're better than me. And they're only using one metric most often. And it's usually the metric that they don't have. So if someone's got all the money in the world and the body of a Greek god, what do they want? Sean, you can answer this. They got all the money in the world and they've got an incredible body. But what's the one thing they probably don't have that they want more than anything?
I would say just a good relationship with themselves.
100%. They want a good relationship with themselves and they want a good relationship with someone that they can be in love with, right?
Mm.
And you take somebody who has all the money in the world and an incredible relationship, but they're, morbidly obese. What do they want more than anything in the world,
To
right?
be healthy. Yeah.
And then you take the overwhelming majority of the American population, because I think most of us can relate to this, is that when you grow up in a culture and society that money and success are directly and intrinsically correlated,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't have that, you start to think that people with money are somehow better than you.
Mm.
And what you fail to recognize is that's only one metric.
Mm-hmm.
So who's to say, sure, they got a gajillion dollars, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they've been through 5 divorces. They're
Mm.
estranged from their kids. They filed bankruptcy 7 times, like all this stuff, not for judgment. It's just the
Mm-hmm.
facts, right? If you just look at the
Mm-hmm.
facts and you're like, yeah, but look at them. They're driving in their Rolls Royce and they got, they've got the, whatever kind of watch and they have the mansion and everything like that. They're winning. They're successful. And I'm just like, whoa, 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 whoa. Hold on. You think that they're better than you because they're winning in one metric of life and losing in every other one, when you're winning in all of the ones they're not winning in, and the
Mm-hmm.
one that you're quote unquote losing in, maybe it's financial, you're somehow less than them. And so the reason I say this, Sean, is because it's all intertwined, is that when we look at who we want to become, it's less about trying to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's important to have these goals and to say, okay, I'm trying to become that. It's more about associating into that in your current reality. Like, I don't remember the word that you used, but you said like living it right now.
Yeah.
Because
Embodying it. Yeah.
embodying it. That's
Mm-hmm.
perfect. Because
Mm-hmm.
most people, what they're trying to do is they're trying to say, if I could just change my circumstances, then I would be okay.
Mm-hmm.
If my wife would change, my boss would change, the government would change, my financial situation would change. If those things outside would change, then I would be okay. I'd be better. I'd feel great about life.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the very people that will stay stuck for the rest of their lives, because they are looking outwardly for the answers that can only come from within. And the way that they come from within is by embodying, just like you said, the ideal that they have created for who they want to be as a human being, in their health, in their relationships, and in their career and wealth. That's it. Period. End of story. Those 3 buckets, right? Health, wealth, and relationships. Then you can get as granular as you want. You can say emotional health, mental health, physical health, but you start defining with specificity what you want in life. Life will actually show you where the gaps are, where the disconnect is, to say, okay, well, I want to be a person that wakes up at 6 a.m. every single day and goes to the gym, but I'm not doing that. Well, there is a great indication that that is part of what you have to change to embody your ideal, which is going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be something that you don't feel like doing. And when you set out to actually get up at 6 a.m. and stop snoozing, you have stepped into and started embodying the future version of you. And you do that with consistency. I'm telling you, man, like 3 months, 6 months, you will not recognize your life. But very few people do that. And it's why they're constantly looking to change all the external circumstances and never getting the results that they want, because it all starts within. When you become who you want to be and become who you said that you would be and become the best version of yourself, not perfect. None of us are perfect. And bro, let me tell you, my wife will tell you, I have my stuff. I don't have all the right answers. But in the answers that I have discovered, that I have found, we just overcomplicate all of it. It's very simple. Like, don't eat crap, be a nice, decent human being, work incredibly hard at whatever you're gifted at, develop your skills, take care of your body, take care of your responsibilities, don't spend more than you make. When you boil this stuff down to simplicity, you start to realize, like, the reason that everything is the way that it is because none of us know who we are or what we want or why we want it. We just have adopted what social media has told us what we're supposed to have to be happy and fulfilled.
David, is there any chance that you have like 3 more hours to just block off? All right. I understand that you're
My
going out
kids are gonna be mad because we're getting
with
ready to head to
yeah.
Disney World, so they're gonna be like, "I'm gonna call that Sean guy. I gotta go
Yeah,
see
yeah.
him."
If we could just like postpone that trip, that way I could just have like a 2 day immersion, just even if it's on Zoom, that's fine. Just that I can soak up everything and write every single thing that you say down. That would be super helpful to me. And as much internal work as we can do, uh, even better because that's what's gonna work and help. So that would be awesome if we could do that. But I want to be courteous of both our time here. So I'll get into our last question, which is has nothing to do with what we've chatted about today.
Okay.
But the last guest has left us a question for you. Okay.
Uh-oh. All
And
right. I hope I
so
don't fail.
this question is from Ben Walker. He coaches others on procrastination. A very, very cool guy.
Yeah.
So he would like to know if you would rather change your sex every time you sneeze, so male to female, female to male,
Okay.
or not be able to tell the difference between a baby and a muffin.
Oh, definitely the baby muffin. Yeah. I'm cool if I can't tell the difference between those two because I'm gonna grab them and hold them
Hmm.
either way.
You're just gonna like sit there and cradle a muffin?
If it's a muffin or it's a baby, it belongs in my
Yeah.
hands. I'll hold it either way. So it's a win-win for everybody, right?
Well, how are you gonna eat muffins?
I mean, I love chomping on my baby's cheek. I got a 1.5-year-old, bro. Like I'm eating his little face all the time, just chewing on his ears. So muffin, yeah, I mean, it's about the same thing.
All right. Well, I'm definitely taking the latter because I'm just hoping that most of us sneeze. Like when I sneeze, I usually change twice, so it'll just be a quick, and then
You
I'm
want to
just
know why
back.
I had a hard no on that? Because
Yeah.
I sneeze 3 times every time I sneeze.
All right.
So that means
Yep.
I'm stuck
Yeah.
being a
Yeah.
different
Until
sex for a while.
yeah. Yeah. Well, you could just sniff some pepper or something, and
That's fair.
then
I feel like
but try to beat the system in a way. Um, let's while you're on the spot here, let's get your question for the next guest.
Hmm, man. Ooh.
Anything. I've had some deep ones. I've had some fun ones.
Hmm. All right. I would say, can it be a two-part question?
Sure.
Okay. What is your specific definition of success, and why is that your specific definition of success?
All right. That's a good one right there. I'm excited for the next guy that gets to answer this. All right. David, I really appreciate you coming on here. All right. I know that I didn't riff back and forth, but how could I? How could I when I all I want to do is hear everything that you uh talked about,
Well,
you
brother,
know?
thank you for having me, man.
All right. Do you want to just share where we can find you or connect with you, things like that?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So, for anyone listening, I love connecting on social media. Feel free to hit me up on Instagram. That's usually where I'm most active, but you can find me anywhere on social media at David Waldy. And I hope it's okay, Sean. You can
Mhm.
punch me later if I'm overstepping here. But I know for some of your audience that are listening, you know, a lot of what Sean's all about is personal development and growth, and these things that we're talking about. If you've been listening to Sean for any period of time and you're wanting to actually grow, if you're really wanting to develop as a human being, you need to get on the phone with this man. There's a reason you listen to his podcast. There's a reason that you're here, is that there's something in your life that you're dissatisfied with, and he can help you by asking you the tough questions. Is that you need to find someone who can be in your corner and ask you the uncomfortable questions that no one else has the balls to ask you. And we all need that. I have to have coaches and mentors in my life. I have to have those kind of people because I'm on the field of play. I
Mm.
can't see from the coaching box. I can't see from the sidelines. It's a completely different perspective. And so if you're listening to this today and you have been wanting to make a change, get on the phone with Sean, send him a message, connect with this man. He has a heart to serve. He'll ask you the right questions, and start putting that uncomfortable action in your life to change how you see yourself, to change how you see the world, because it is going to not only set you up for a beautiful life, but it's going to help you to create the results in your life that can only come from you deciding, committing, and becoming who you were born to be.
Mm. Thank you very much, David. That was very kind and heartfelt for you to say. And like just from doing the podcast, I've done close to 80 episodes now, and the ability that I've been able to have to hear everyone's different perspective and then form my own perspective where I have so many different people from so many different walks of life and create my own belief system on that. And I am not someone that's sharing my own beliefs to you, but I have all these different beliefs from both ends of the spectrum where whatever's going to work for you, I'm able to ask you those questions, those tougher questions that you haven't asked or you haven't gotten out of your head. You haven't even gotten them onto paper. And then I can look at things from every single side, and whether I agree or disagree, I just want you to improve your life. That's it.
Mm.
And get and that feeling of stuckness that many of us go through just to help push that a little bit away. And you can bring that future you that you're looking for closer to you today. That's what I'm here to do.
I
So,
love it. So good,
David,
bro.
David, thank you very much. All right, guys, thanks for listening, and we will catch you next time.